area with lots of death. And at one point, literally, there's a hotel, and we'll talk about it, but the rumor is that this hotel was where they were operating on soldiers, and just so many limbs and got swept into a pile and just left in this basement, that they think that's part of what accounts for the hauntings. So, and that's why I'm going into this, is that basically I just want people to understand the amount of despair, not even death, but despair that happened in this area over those 3 days. The amount of pain, the amount of screaming, the amount of loss. And that, I believe, is why the area is as haunted as it appears to be, which we will get into here shortly. But first, I believe, after that, we're going to take a short word from our sponsors, and then we're going to get into some of the haunted locales in and around Gettysburg.
Sounds like a plan.
All right, so now for a word from our sponsors. Well, that was good.
Yep.
How do you feel, hon? You feel sponsored? Awesome. Good. As long as you do. So, we have a lot to get through, but I narrowed it down to about 10 places from literally the website, Most Haunted Places in Gettysburg. And so we'll cover these. Now, these are by all means not the only haunted places in Gettysburg. So, Sachs Covered Bridge, and that's spelled S-A-C-H-S. It's a covered bridge. Now, it was destroyed in the 90s by a storm, but rebuilt using salvage material. The story goes 3 Confederate soldiers were leaving their unit and were caught there. Now, when you leave your unit, like, they weren't supposed to do that. They were just sneaking away. And so what happens when you're in the military and you try to sneak away from your unit and they catch you?
You get in trouble.
You get in all kinds of trouble. And in this case, these poor fellows got hung.
Oh, God. That's big trouble.
That is big trouble. Now, I do not know how true that story is. I looked it up. I could not find confirmation of it, but I could not find denial of it. So but the bridge to this day is a place where people see Confederate ghosts, as well as mists and other strange phenomena. Like lights, people get strange feelings. There are orbs. So yeah, it's a very strange place. Sachs Covered Bridge. And it is just a covered bridge in the middle of near the battlefield of Gettysburg. In fact, if you look on TripAdvisor, quite a few people have had experiences there. A lot of people will mention that, they saw Civil War reenactors on the bridge because they think they're people. What they're seeing is people. And in some cases, maybe that's true. But in some cases, it's clearly just images from the past. Then there's the area known as Devil's Den. Now, this is a part of the Gettysburg battlefield that saw heavy fighting on the second day. Sorry. So it's just an area of the battlefield that saw a lot of heavy fighting, which means a lot of wounding, a lot of killing. And in this area, people have seen ghosts of Civil War soldiers. They've seen shadow people. People taking photos with their family or whatnot, and visitors will turn up in these photos, oftentimes Civil War soldiers or whatever. Often, people see a Union soldier and who talks and converses with visitors. And a lot of people think that he is paid for by the state to be there. And so they'll go to take a picture with him. And when the picture comes out, he's not in it, even though he was there.
Fun.
Or while they're talking to him, he'll just disappear. So that is a quite interactive little ghost at Devil's Den.
Sounds like it.
Now, there's the Tilly Pierce House Inn. Yes. Named after author Tilly Pierce, who wrote about her experiences as a teenage girl in Gettysburg, including seeing some of the battles and witnessing amputations, which is where we get some of the descriptions from.
I see.
Now, the Tilly Pierce House Inn is an active inn. You can stay there to this day. Guests report phantom footsteps from the attic, waking to find a soldier sitting on their bed, and there's a soldier that patrols the hallways. Like, people will see him come down a set of stairs into the dining room, turn around, and go back up. Now, that one's residual. But I know that people have checked out because they wake up and see a Civil War soldier sitting on the end of their bed.
Can you see that?
Krysta, you want to go stay there? You sure? Why not? Wouldn't you like to wake up and see a ghost sitting on the end of your bed?
Absolutely not.
Why not?
Because no.
Well, I'd go to any place in Gettysburg
I would not.
just for the history of it. The Daniel Lady Farm and Home. Now, during the Civil War, it was a field hospital for the Confederate Army and General Ewell's Second Corps. So it really is no surprise that this is considered to be one of the most haunted places in Gettysburg. Soldiers injured during the battle were transported to the barn, and officers were sent to the farmhouse, either to recover from their wounds or to die, depending on the severity of their injuries. Many of the men passing through here had chest wounds and or missing limbs. The farmhouse and barn would have seen far more than its share of horror, especially considering wartime amputations were performed without much in the way of anesthetic or medical equipment.
Yep.
Forensically verified bloodstains remain on floors in the house that indicate where operations took place, patients propped themselves along the walls, or where a body laid on the floor. It is believed that General Isaac Ewell and his troops are still haunting the farm to this day. The restored house and barn owned by the Gettysburg Battleford Preservation Association are open for tours on the weekends. But yes, commonly seen in this place are Confederate troops. Also commonly seen here are shadow figures. Also commonly seen here are orbs. Lots of EVPs picked up here. Most of these places are just swooped upon by ghost hunting groups. And of course, the famous ones have all been there. Some version of the Ghost Hunters has been there. The Ghost Adventures guys have been there, which are not my favorite. But yeah, and not necessarily, I'm not talking about I'm talking about Gettysburg as a whole. It brings a lot of haunted tourism. Now, the next we're going to talk about is the Gettysburg Hotel. It's another place that was used as a field hospital, and because of that, a lot of things that happened there, a lot of people attribute to all the death and despair that happened in this building. It was established in 1797, and it is said to be one of the most haunted buildings in Gettysburg. It was used as a hospital as well. The basement was drenched in blood, according to some of the various authors, newspapers, wits of the day who were there. So, one of the spirits they know haunts the place They say they call her Rachel, and she's believed to be a Civil War era nurse who is apparently still looking for wounded soldiers that she can care for. Guests have reported Rachel opening their drawers and taking some of their clothing out for them to wear. Rachel is not the only spirit that's haunting the Gettysburg Hotel. The others include a wounded soldier and a lady who is still dancing in the ballroom. The wounded soldier has apparently been identified by paranormal investigators as James Culbertson, a Union soldier from Company K, Pennsylvania Reserves.
Well,
Which is weird because Mom married a Culbertson at one point, but he didn't spell his name with two L's. And this one does, apparently.
so probably not.
Yes. Now, the hotel was the place for people to stay during the Civil War because it offered amenities like hot and cold water, a fine dining restaurant, and electric lights, which were a luxury at the time. In 1955, the hotel was used by President Eisenhower as a base of operations after he had a heart attack. Obviously, because it was used as a hospital, there's no surprise that there have been multiple sightings and ghostly experiences inside the hotel. The ghost of a woman has been seen dancing in the ballroom, still enjoying the music from the past. There is also reports of a ghost nurse named Rachel, which we've talked about. And injured soldier James Culbertson still roams about the hotel after his untimely demise during the Civil War. Also, people will occasionally go in the basement and see doctors operating on soldiers,
Well, then.
which is not something I'd ever want to see. Let me just stress that. That is the Gettysburg Hotel. It is probably the most famous haunted place in Gettysburg. It's one of those places that's reliably haunted. That if you go there, chances are you see something. And TripAdvisor is full of people who have seen stuff there. So, thank you, by the way, Matt from Graveyard Tales, and hooking me up with the
TripAdvisor.
Yeah, with the TripAdvisor, gimmick. That has really helped. So, next is the Cashtown Inn. It's become infamous because it's where the first soldier was killed during the Gettysburg portion of the Civil War. According to the current owners of the property, the inn is incredibly haunted. That always concerns me when I hear it because it sounds like people are promoting something. They have a collection of photographs dating back to 1987, right up till recently, which show strange orbs of light and even skeletal figures showing up. Guests at the inn have reported unexplained banging on their doors, lights being switched on and off by unseen hands, and doors being unlocked or locked seemingly by themselves. One of the strangest examples of paranormal activity that is reported here is that some guests have returned to their rooms after day out only to find their suitcases neatly packed with no explanation. So you want to go stay at the Cashtown Inn, Krysta? You want to go stay at the Cashtown Inn?
No. I don't want to say any of
But the Cashtown Inn, you come home you come to the hotel room after a long day and all your stuff is packed up.
No. Nah, we're good.
As nice as that sounds, how about no?
Krysta just doesn't want to do anything fun.
I don't want to go any of these places.
Why not? No, I was just curious. So let's talk about the Jenny Wade house.